Hello friends, welcome to Friday Beyond Spotlights, Hong Kong's new insightful program looking into the lives of our most remarkable high achievers and getting their take on the city's past, present and future.
Our guests will give their personal perspectives for a new generation, inspiring Hong Kong for a better society.
So sit back and relax and we'll take you beyond the spotlights.
Welcome back to Friday Beyond Spotlights. I am Patrick Tsang. I'm a local Hong Kong businessman, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. On Friday Beyond Spotlights, we invite prominent guests to share their unique insights on current affairs, business, innovation, and culture. Today, we're very happy to have the father of Lan Kwai Fong, Dr. Allan Zeman, join us. Allan has quite an interesting background. He is Jewish, raised in Canada, and now settled in Hong Kong and calls Hong Kong home. Allan's story reflects the values of Hong Kong: international, embracing diversity, and most importantly, respect. Welcome to Friday Beyond Spotlights, Allan.
Good to be here after that build-up that you just gave me. It's a pleasure to be here.
How did the transition from Canada to Hong Kong or the interest in garment develop?
At that time, Hong Kong was the factory to the world. All the factories were in Hong Kong, not really in China at the time, and because China was very different at that time. And so Hong Kong was still under the British administration. And so that's what brought me here. And that's what really made me start to think, wow, maybe I'd like to live here. And what really cemented it was after my first year in business of importing ladies' sweaters. I had a company called Jump for Charlie in Canada. And I was importing ladies' sweaters from Hong Kong. And at that time, at the end of my first year in business, I made $1 million US profit. I thought, wow, I'm rich. Well, I sat down with the accountants at the end of the year and I said, I'll have a check for $1 million. They said, not so fast. I said, why? They said, you have to pay tax. I said, tax? You're kidding. How much? They told me 50%. I said, 50%? Who gets the tax? Well, socialized medicine, socialize this, socialize that. Someone has to pay for it. So now I'm thinking to myself, $500,000, still a lot of money to a 19-year-old. Said I have a check for $500,000. Not so fast again. Why? I said, I just pay tax. No, that was corporation tax. Now you got to declare a dividend and have personal tax if you want, and at a lesser rate. And so I think I wound up with something like $425,000 out of my $1 million. Still a lot of money to a 19-year-old. And I thought to myself, how does anyone get rich in this country? Well, they said everyone pays tax, you know. And I was in Hong Kong on a buying trip at the time, and I asked at that time Lydia Dunn, who was the first female at Swire. Swire McLean was my buying office. And I asked her, you know, what's the tax in Hong Kong? And she told me 15%, 1.5. And I said, 15%? You're kidding. I said,
that's what cemented the deal, right?
How many years are we going to make $1 million? And I thought, I can move to Hong Kong and put away some money and keep it this time, and instead of working for the government. Little did I know, I worked so much for the government while I moved out here, but it was a pleasure. And so that's what really brought me to Hong Kong.
What an exciting and exhilarating story.
Hong Kong's tax regime is highly competitive. In addition to being simple and transparent, the profits tax rate is presently only 8.25% for the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars of profits, and thereafter only 16.5%.
Indeed, there is also no sales tax, capital gains tax, or dividend tax. Characterized by professional governments, high efficiency, and clean administration, Hong Kong is a very business-friendly regulatory environment.
Hong Kong did business with the world. Huge, huge market, especially if you think big. Super connector. And I really felt that if I moved to Hong Kong, I can do business with the world. Why do I have to worry about doing business with the local shop, you know, in Montreal or in Toronto or wherever it was?
What's very interesting to me, Allan, is if you can compare the times when Hong Kong was under British rule, and obviously the last 2 decades when China has resumed sovereignty. Are there unique opportunities or observations that you can share with our viewers?
Well, the one thing I can tell you, when the British were here, They built an infrastructure that really lasted. They had low taxes. Their whole idea was a low tax base for people that wanted to reside here. 15% tax, which was great to a business person, to an entrepreneur.
And a common law system,
independent judiciary, common law, all these things that were very important to business people.
But I remember back in 1997, there were magazines or media that had portrayed, the end of Hong Kong, right? And
absolutely.
how wrong were they?
Fortune magazine did their front cover was the end of Hong Kong, which was front cover. And they all had visions of the end of Hong Kong. This was it. The British were pulling out. The communist Chinese were coming back to take back Hong Kong. And this would be, everybody would be in handcuffs. I still remember. They're all thought that at the stroke of midnight, all the tanks and the PLA would be coming across the border, and that was the end of our freedom. So at the time, media would just keep trashing China and saying, oh, it's communist and it's bad and all that. But I saw it getting better and better. There was a building boom on in China that was second to none. I mean, airports, office buildings, homes, everything, even secondary, third-tier cities were getting better and better. It was really something that was amazing to me to see.
Being in Hong Kong is near and dear to us, and clearly being here, I think we have an unadulterated and unfiltered view about what the national security law is really all about. Can you share some of your personal observations?
Well, I'll tell you something. 2019, when we had all the protests in Hong Kong, that was a combination of so many confused locals, not knowing if they were Hong Kongese, Chinese, British, American. It was a mess, and really something that I never, in all the years,
right? There were violence.
There was violence. There was something that my wife, my family was afraid to go out, and it was just really something. This was not Hong Kong.
And must be very sad to see that.
It was very, very sad to see it after so many years for my family, for everyone. People were talking at that time about leaving, and it wasn't safe for their kids. The U.S. was dying to have another Tiananmen Square. They thought China's going to come across the border and take over. But China was so smart. They didn't. What they did was they had their own people in Beijing do a national security law. And that was something that they can institute in Hong Kong. And at the end of the day, they were right. Because as soon as they put the national security law in, there was a foundation of what you could do, what you couldn't do. What it did was it brought stability back. Patrick, there's 200 countries in the world. 120 countries have a security law out of 200 countries. And basically, what is wrong with Hong Kong having a security law? I think the U.S. has 20 security laws. Singapore has security law. Everyone has security laws.
Very common and basic.
If you read most of the security laws, they're a lot more strict than the one that China instituted to Hong Kong. But at the end of the day, the security law really created stability, which really helped businesses around the world start to come back to Hong Kong and start to have a trust in Hong Kong, because there was a foundation of what you could do, what you can't do.
But with the national security law, then, confidence or trust in the system has been restored to a certain extent.
As soon as stability returned, and obviously the independent judiciary, many of the protesters who created havoc here broke the law. And some of them have gone to jail, which rightly so, because the thing is, if you look at our independent judiciary, it's very, very strong. We have a lot of foreign judges from all over the world, from the UK, from Australia, from the United States, Canada.
So Allan, you are still obviously very confident in terms of Hong Kong's role within China as well as within the international landscape.
China's now came up with a new plan for Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area. And what the Greater Bay Area is, 11 cities. The key cities, Hong Kong, Macau, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. And all the 11 cities are 1.5 hours away from one another by high-speed rail. And you're talking about 84 million people. Last year, GDP of 1.67 trillion US dollars. I really believe that this will be, you know, a game changer for Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was always the super connector between the West and the East and the West. Because of our independent judiciary, because of our low tax base, China always needed a special one country, two systems. And that was always the strength of Hong Kong. And so for myself, I can see that in the future, Hong Kong will remain as a super connector between the East and the West.
Hong Kong is a great place for entrepreneurs to work with the best talent, research and development centres, universities and industries to make use of the prototyping and manufacturing facilities, big data, AI, quantum computing facilities.
And tap into the vast GBA, Greater China, Asia Pacific, and launch for international success.
Allan, if you're going to offer one piece of advice to the younger viewers out there who are trying to make it in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, is there one thing that you would highlight?
You know, in the past, everyone here in the East used to the West, send my kids to school in the West, you know, do business in the West and all that. In the future,
it's the reverse.
My advice to young people, the reverse. Young people in the West, look East.
Thank you, Allan. We'll be right back. In this segment, Beyond Spotlight's Story, we ask our guests to highlight an item or an episode in their life that has special meaning to them. Should we start with the formative years?
I actually came from Canada, from Montreal at the time. My dad died when I was 7 years old, and I was working at a very young age. I was 10 when I was delivering newspapers in the morning while I was going to school, and then 12 years old I was cleaning tables in a restaurant as a busboy.
So that kind of honed in the work ethic.
That gave me the work ethic. When I was 16, I graduated from secondary school, from high school in Montreal, and at that time I got marks to go into university, and I decided I'm going to go to university at night, because I didn't want to be a professional person. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I already had the taste of money. I was earning more money when I was working than my teachers at the time. I was the only kid when I was 16 years old, had his own car, had a convertible, and very popular with all the girls, of course. But that was something that really built my character, I think. And so basically, when I was 16, I was looking for a job. And there was a lingerie company, ladies' lingerie company, looking for a shipping clerk. I had no idea what shipping clerk was all about, but lingerie sounded very exciting to a 16-year-old. So by accident, I wound up being in the garment business, in the fashion industry. And from there, I became a salesman selling ladies' dresses, not even knowing what a lady's dress looked like. But whatever I did, I was very, very good at it. At 19, I decided I want to open my own business. And because I had many customers, I was selling ladies' dresses across Western Canada. At that time, Hong Kong, it was really like going to the moon, basically. Wow. You know, no one knew, even when I decided to move to Hong Kong, finally, I told my late mother, I want to move to Hong Kong. And she said, you want to move to Japan? Because at that time, everything was made in Japan.
Do you still remember your first trip out here?
Yes, my first trip out here, I still remember, was a very long I flew Pan Am from New York.
Take us back a little bit more to that time, right? What was doing business like? Was it difficult? Was it difficult as a foreigner?
Well, I tell you, when I first arrived and the old Kai Tak airport, if many of you remember, taking that turn to land, you can
see families having dinner.
You can basically see
window,
families
right?
having dinner, or you can put your hand out the window and pull something off the clothesline. And so it was very, very unique. And for a young man, I was 19 years old. My God, this was an experience of a lifetime. The locals really worked very, very hard. All the factories were in the Sampo Kong, Kwai Chung, Kwun Tong, Tai Kok Choi, all the areas in Kowloon, you know, that's where all the factory buildings were. And, you know, I spent most of my life at that time, the early years, in the factory areas, whereas a lot of the expats were in Hong Kong Island, basically. So the first few trips was really an eye-opener for me, something that I'd never done before, but I just saw the potential. I just loved the energy. Hong Kong was a place that you can have a dream at night, wake up the next morning, and make it a reality. Honestly, Patrick, if I had to say one thing, it's a very safe place to bring up a family, great schooling, a lot of opportunity. It's a place that you don't have to worry about anyone carrying guns or all the violence that's going on around the world. Hong Kong people are very, very nice. So it's a great place to do business and bring up a family. And we've got a great harbor, we've got great islands, great hiking, great trails. To me, it's one of the best places in the world. So anyone who is thinking about coming out or thinking about their future, just hop on a plane like I did and come out here. I'm supposed to be this visionary, you know. I look at things not for what they are. I look at things for what they could be, you know, and I supposedly see things that other people don't. And basically, and that's always been my strength.
So Alan, what would you like to show us today?
This is just one of my boys. I've got 8 of these. There was an art show here in Hong Kong, and it was the last day of the show, and the gallery was packing up to ship everything back to Beijing, and I came in and it just looked good, and I thought, I'll make him an offer to take everything off his hands. He doesn't have to ship it back to Hong Kong.
They just appeal to you, I guess, in what ways, or what do they represent?
I look at them every day, you know, and it was really the coming out of China, because this was artists in China at many years ago that just decided, you know, that they had this pop art, this unique look to itself, and it became very famous. I think all over the world they're sold now. And so these are just, I just love beauty, I love culture, I love art, and that's just part of me.
Thank you for your sharing, Alan.
My pleasure.
Alan, we're now at our rapid fire question segment. Don't need to think too much, just short answers. I'm going to fire out a number of questions to you.
I never think too much, so don't worry about it.
Ready?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, if I was younger again, the advice would be go east, young man, and be positive and confident.
What is the first thing that you notice about someone?
First thing I notice about someone is their appearance, the clothes they wear, their facial expressions, the way they're put together.
Do you consider yourself a fun or boring person?
I think I'm a fun person. You know, I don't like boring people, so I think I'm fun.
When you're not working, how do you spend your free time?
When I'm not working, usually my free time is spent kind of going on my boat. On the weekend, I have a big yacht in Hong Kong, and we go out on beautiful islands around, and so I really enjoy that.
Alan, your favorite color?
My favorite color is black.
Ice cream flavor?
Ice cream flavor, probably, I like them all, but unfortunately, I wish I didn't like ice cream, but I really...
How about your favorite drink?
My favorite, well, water.
Water?
Yes, I sell a lot of alcohol, but I don't drink alcohol. The father of Lan Kwai Fong drinks water.
Favorite place to eat?
Favorite place to eat is California Tower. I have a bunch of restaurants in California Tower. The one I like the most, I love Italian food, it's Aria.
Your favorite sport?
My favorite sport? Well, I exercise every day of my life. I don't really play sports, but I never have. I exercise 1 hour and 20 minutes every
Keep
morning.
healthy.
Yeah, it's now 50 years that I'm religious. I never, ever miss a day. I've got a big gym in my house, and that's something that I really, really love doing.
Fantastic. How about your favorite game as a child?
My favorite game as a child? Monopoly, actually.
Any hidden talents that we should know about?
Hidden talents? I'm still looking for them, and I'll let you know when I find out.
Last book you read?
Believe it or not, don't tell anybody, but I've never read a book in my life, to be quite honest. It's the truth. And I've got, as you see in my office, I've got tons of books all over, all sent to me. I use them for decoration. They make a very nice decor. But no, I read newspapers, magazines, but I just cannot read a book. I mean, it's something that for some reason I never did. Even when I was young in school, I'll tell you a quick funny story. I was supposed to write read a book and write a synopsis of the book and then get marks for it. Well, I didn't want to read the book, read a book. It was any book that you can choose. So I made up a title called Black is the Night. And I made up an author's name, and that was really something that...
And you made up the storyline.
Made up the storyline, yeah. It was very, very good.
Biggest misconception about you?
Well, the biggest misconception about me maybe is that I drink a lot of alcohol, which I don't.
I was just going to say that you party a lot.
Yeah.
Proudest moment?
Proudest moment is actually my children, you know, and my grandkids, really being with them and seeing some of them graduate. And so I think that's something that made me very proud.
Biggest fear?
Biggest fear? Yeah, biggest fear is that that the world, if we continue going the way we're going, if we don't really clean up the environment and clean up, you know, many things that are problems for the world now with AI and 5G and 6G and all these things, you know, that we should be a bit more careful.
If you can have dinner with anyone, Allan, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Probably Warren Buffett is one who I really admire. I think another one that I can probably say is President Xi Jinping. I've had dinner before, been at a few dinners with him. But one-on-one, yeah.
Allan, the one person that you most like to thank?
I'd like to thank two people, both my father and my mother, for giving birth to me. One person cannot give birth to me, so that's probably who I'd thank the most.
Allan, what well wishes would you offer Hong Kong?
Hong Kong, you are one of the best places in the world. Have confidence, be positive, and let's join up closer and closer with the Greater Bay Area and China, and I promise you, everybody's life will get better.
Thank you very much, Allan, for spending today with us. We've very much enjoyed sharing your insights with us.
Well, it was a pleasure to be here. Your questions were very, very good and very enlightening, and hopefully a lot of your viewers will really listen to things I've said, and really the advice I'm trying to give them is very, very good.
Thank you very much again.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned for other episodes of Friday Beyond Spotlight. This is Patrick Tsang, your host, signing off. Goodbye.
Dr. Allan Zeman, Mr. Lan Kwai Fong. He's a fascinating personality who's shown so much confidence in Hong Kong and mainland China.
His resilience and perseverance in overcoming challenges is an exemplary illustration of the spirit of Hong Kong.
Thank you for watching Friday Beyond Spotlight. Until next time, goodbye.